Welcome everybody to Conversations on American Democracy, and we have lots to talk about. By the way, and I'm wondering because I'm not sure I heard the right thing at the when I'll call him the founder-in-chief laid a wreath at the tomb of the unknown podiatrist. Would you? That refers to the bone spurs that got him out of the military and so on. Did he say he had a 92% approval rating? Nobody paid any attention.
I haven't seen that.
No, okay. Well, that's a good thing.
I wonder how he came up with only 92%.
You know what? How did he come up with anything? And does anybody
being humble?
Does anybody believe anything that comes out of his mouth?
No.
92% of the MAGA people.
By the way, probably, or 92% of his family. And the other 8% is like his, was it niece or Mary? Whatever.
92% of
Okay.
whatever.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm not sure about Tiffany.
Yeah, right. Yeah, it's a good question. Anyway, so let's start with Mr. Macaulay.
Curt.
Yes.
Curt, I'll get it straight. From the U.S. Constitution, then we'll go to Mike, and then we'll talk about some local issues, what to pay attention to.
Well, this one, Amendment 11. And they give me the date it was ratified was 2/7/1795. The judicial power of the United States shall not be construed to extend to any suit in law or equity commenced or prosecuted against one of the United States by citizens of another state or by citizens or subjects of a foreign state. Everybody understand that?
Absolutely
not.
No,
Nor do I
I would say the
context.
attorney wrote that.
Yeah, but what it really means is that the Attorney General from one state can indict as someone from another state, you know. So he has the right to indict, right? But we give him that to that individual state. But the person he wants, that's the reason why we have what? What do we have? When we catch a criminal from another state,
Due
what
process.
do we do?
Extradition.
Yeah, extradition.
Yeah.
He has to come before the court where he committed the crime, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, that's your Amendment 11. All right.
Very good.
I just wanted to say that Curt suggested last week the movie, the TV show
very vague.
Death by Lightning, and it is excellent. It is the assassination of President
Garfield.
I
Garfield.
always started watching that.
And heavily in that series is the idea of Article 14.
Right.
I was just wondering, can you just jump to 14? Because it's so appropriate right now. It's interesting what the 14th Amendment really provides. Go ahead.
And it was ratified 7/9/1868. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state where they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness without the due process of law. That's the due process problem of grabbing people off the street. Nor deny any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. Okay, 2, representatives shall be apportioned among the several states according to the respective numbers, counting the whole number of persons in each state. You know, this is very appropriate.
Not citizens.
Not citizens.
Excluding
For the time, by the way,
Indians,
not black.
not taxed.
Excluding blacks.
Okay, but when the right to vote at any election for the choice of electors for the President and Vice President of the United States, representatives in Congress, the executive, and the judicial officers of a state or the members of the legislature thereof is denied any of the male inhabitants of each state being 21 years of age and citizens of the United States, or in any way abridged except for participation in rebellion or other crimes. Okay, January 6th. The basis of representatives therein shall be reduced to the proportion which the number of each male citizen shall bear to the whole number of the male citizens 21 years of age in such states.
Has that ever been amended to include women?
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. You want me to switch? I'll go to
It took a while.
what is it, 19
Yes.
Yeah, 19th.
or 20? It's the 19th. The right of citizens to the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or any state on account of sex. Congress shall have the power to enforce this article by appropriate legislation. So that had to come later.
Yeah,
Yeah.
You know, it was a male country.
yeah. But there's a lot more to unpack in the 14th. We could probably spend
Yeah,
weeks on the
I mean, that's-
14th Amendment.
Oh, yeah.
It's really critical.
Yeah, well, there's more to this, if you want me to go through it. There's two more provisions. For the
Go ahead.
validity of the public debt of the United States authorized by law, including debts incurred for payment of pensions and bounties for service in suppressing insurrection or rebellion shall not be questioned. But neither the United States nor any state shall assume or pay any debt or obligation incurred in aid of insurrection or rebellion against the United States, or any claim for the loss of emancipation of any slave. But all such debts, obligation, and claims shall be held illegal and void. So, you know, they wanted compensation for the loss of their slaves, okay? And this is number 5, the Congress shall have the power to enforce by appropriate legislation the
In some
provisions of
instances,
this article.
yes.
This is a tough one, you know, but it wasn't nearly as tough as it should have been against the Southerners, you know?
Well, I think that was the friction between Andrew Johnson and the people in line with
Yeah.
Lincoln. Lincoln wanted to reach out and to
Right.
bring them back into the Union, and Johnson, was against Reconstruction. And
Yeah.
that's another,
Yeah.
complicated history.
Yeah, like the assassination of Abraham Lincoln was
Changed, what
Was
the
it bad, John?
really a bad thing for this
Yeah.
country.
What is the name of the movie again?
Death by
Lightning.
It's a series.
Yeah, would somebody,
Four-part
if
series
somebody will
on-
email me that, I'll share that information with everybody. I've got, again, that 73 member list. I'll be happy to let everybody know.
Yeah, it's just
Yeah.
it is an amazing story.
Yeah.
And the whole idea, I was in Charleston, and Charleston is one of those places where tariffs were put on. So don't forget to understand that this is all about tariffs and taxing the American people. And that's the reason Trump loves it, because it's solely his authority. And of course, he didn't have that authority, but he's basing it on emergency. There is no emergency. I think that I'll make a prediction the Supreme Court will rule against him. With
Based upon the conversations that the justices had that
Yeah.
day, they were
Sorry.
almost all of
Yeah,
them going,
yeah,
but this is defined very specifically in the Constitution.
it had to come to a time where they would eventually have to say, no, you
Yeah.
can't do that anymore.
That,
But Congress fails
We'll see.
to break that up. It's Congress's rights. to-
Congress,
Now-
Yeah, well,
Congress is
yeah.
folded.
Now they're
It hasn't
having
happened yet.
discussions about
Hasn't
how
happened
to
yet.
reimburse the people the companies who paid those tariffs with their imports. So now they were talking
And
yesterday about
ultimately,
how
yeah.
there is a record of who paid what for every import that came in terms of tariffs. So they
Yeah.
can easily
But
refund
there's-
that money to them if they need
To
to.
the companies, but not to the people who paid more
For the goods.
imported,
Right. And the vice, did you see the movie yet?
No.
No. Well, the vice president,
Well, he said he's gonna give
he's
us
just an ignorant boob, you know?
Yeah, you
He
know
was
what, he
a
could say
tool- He was a tool
That's
of the
what-
senator from New York.
Yeah,
What movie we're
I'm
talking
hoping
about?
at some point we'll go back to the
What-
to the original Constitution without the
That's
amendments,
the
articles.
movie that we're all talking
And
about.
the president
That's
does
why I
not
like-
that's
have
why I
the
like-
power
It's a
of the
series.
purse.
Yeah,
That's
it's
invested
four
in
parts. You can
Congress.
do it in one night.
Yet Trump says, I'm going to send $2,000 to everybody. I'm going to give money
Yeah,
to.
he
says
I'm
a
gonna-
lot of things.
He says a lot of, but Congress then folds instead of taking its position as an independent body, as a separation of powers. It just does whatever.
He's
Trump
just
said.
trying to get his approval rating up by promising money to everybody.
Yeah,
And votes.
say, going to Shelton. Yeah, go.
Yeah,
Paul.
and the
Rob.
discussion with the companies being reimbursed, there's discussion on it that they might not be being reimbursed because they passed it on. The companies that did pass it on will be reimbursed.
That's a good point.
And that's a
That's
monumental
legal part of it.
forensic accounting challenge.
Yeah.
At any rate, Mike.
Can I say one more thing?
Yeah, please, go ahead.
You gotta understand that what this movie that we're talking about here, the most plum job in a patronage system, which we had then, was the guy who ran the U.S. Customs Office in New York. And remember, New York was and I got involved with longshoremen early on when I was in college, unloading ships. And boy, New York didn't like any ships that coming into other ports. So I was in Portsmouth, New Hampshire, unloading a beef ship from Australia. And the beef was being loaded onto Israeli planes. And this was in the '73 war. And I swear to God, Pease Air Force Base was just on the other side, and these big 747s were coming in to get our beef, and also arms for the '73 war. Remember that one? That was the Yom Kippur War, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And before the income tax, which is what, 1913, and it's a
Yeah.
different amendment, tariffs and taxes on alcohol, whiskey, which had generated the whiskey rebellion a century and a half earlier.
That's a whole nother story we got to talk about. Ken Burns did that one on alcohol.
Yeah, yeah.
That was the first way in which taxes were,
Yeah, that's how-
rendered for
Yeah.
people, right?
George Washington.
We didn't always
Yeah.
have an income tax.
And the whiskey rebellion, which George Washington stepped into.
There were two tiers of taxation. There was a flat tax for the companies, and then the ones that would make it illegal were getting a rate in the
Yeah.
bottle. That's what started the rebellion.
Anyway,
But whiskey or alcohol was the only thing that was taxed
was
by the
taxed,
federal
and
government.
that's how we pay our bills.
Keep
Do you
drinking.
want to say something, Sue? Or you, no,
I just couldn't remember if okay, I didn't miss the American Revolution.
No,
starts
no,
on
it's
November
good.
16th.
Is it coming up? It's coming up. Oh, is it?
Ken
Okay.
Burns.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
I think, oh God,
Next
I
week.
can't
I think
wait
it's
for
5
that.
nights in a
Another,
row.
yeah, is it 5 nights in a
I hope
row?
it stirs my
Tape
soul.
it and watch it at my convenience. Tape it also, but no, there's no tape anymore.
6
That's,
part,
yeah.
12 hours.
Yeah. Okay, how will we do on today's citizenship test?
Can I say something, one more thing about the Ken Burns thing? It's the whole thing about Yorktown. And I'll go over that with everybody because I don't, the first, no one, he isn't here. Who's reading the first salute? Oh, I know, Joe in the other meeting.
Yeah.
But the first salute is all about this. I'll go over it. It's fascinating.
Yeah.
We would have never won the war if what happened at Yorktown, but it's what transpired at Yorktown.
Well, watch
but
Ken Burns.
I can't spoil it for you. You gotta see it.
Watch Ken Burns.
And back to,
You think there's no drama in this stuff?
while we're on entertainment and literature, I've mentioned this here before. This is a novel, a historical novel, but strongly follows the historical narrative. It's called Whiskey Rebels. Whiskey Rebels. A fascinating, really great read. I mean, you even if you're not interested in history, about about the Whiskey Rebellion. The author is David Liss, Liss,
Yeah.
and he has written a number of other very, very good historical novels. But I really recommend Whiskey Rebels. It's a great read.
Again, those recommendations, send them to me. I'll spread them out,
Okay.
especially the people who aren't here also.
Thank you.
Okay, Mike, got some questions for us, and then we'll go on to Mark and what's going on locally.
Okay, and this is pertinent these days.
Yeah.
Who makes federal laws?
The legislature.
Yeah,
Legislators.
Basically, Congress, and then that's the Senate and the House.
Right.
The legislature.
Legislative branch.
But, and then what are two parts of the U.S. Congress? We just said that.
House of Representatives.
And then how many U.S. senators are there?
Yeah.
2 per state.
2 per state, yeah, that's a probably better answer than 100, yeah.
Yeah.
And then,
Okay. And, well, and how, the House of Representatives, how many voting members?
435. 435.
It's in the fours.
435.
435.
435. Yeah.
And that's a
Soon to be
fixed number.
436.
That's a fixed
with the new
number, so
guy.
as the,
no,
if
she's
we
being-
had
she's
states or
replacing.
whatever, we just have to have larger districts, yeah.
Or reapportionments.
Yeah, well, and
Less.
that's another story as well.
More
But-
states, less districts.
Yes, but, and of course, we know that if Washington DC and Puerto Rico were to become states, they would not add Republicans to the Senate or the House of
Right.
Representatives, but they'd add Democrats, and that's why,
Right.
as long as the
Exactly.
Republicans are in charge.
Or
not gonna-
Canada.
Yeah, now, Canada would add a lot of Democrats, and it would, but I don't think Trump's that smart. My wife and I argue, and we can argue too, is Trump right? I don't know, is he not, does he understand, does he not, I don't know. Yeah, and particularly when he reads off, he doesn't read well from
He doesn't
a
read.
teleprompter. Well, he doesn't read books, and yes, then the Trump library will include a couple
And he
of
doesn't like-
comic books.
And he doesn't
That's a
like-
funny idea, the Trump Library.
Yeah.
That is a very funny idea.
Yeah.
Colored books.
Yeah,
Whiteboards everywhere with
colored books.
Very Trump's
You can't take out any books today, both of them are out.
Very good. You just think of that. That was really, I'm impressed. Mark, what should we be paying attention to as far as local government is concerned?
Well, there was no meeting yesterday because of Veterans Day. To promote my ponderies from Palm Coast, I did a good reach out to veterans. We all know them. They're all around us. Reach out to them. Of importance, the Palm Coast Democratic Club tomorrow is having the superintendent of Flagler Schools is coming for a meet and greet and to answer questions. There's a bunch of questions going on with the Flagler County Schools. Highly recommend you go there. The city's kind of in the middle of figuring out, there's a bunch of lawsuits and things that are happening with the builders. But it's been very nice and quiet the last couple of cycles. The meetings have gone fairly well. I think they're holding their breath, waiting to see what happens with the taxation issues that are happening at the state level, and the property taxes that we're all aware they're continuing to talk about. So that is my report
Yeah,
for
thank
the
you.
city.
So Coast got the
Curt?
paint color for the houses
Yeah,
resolved?
yeah.
Okay.
But chickens still.
And
you
the
can't-
chickens in the
Chickens
yard?
were on
Okay.
another extended, they did not, they had room for 50, they only had like 10 or 12 people, so they're still running the extension. The parking of utility trucks has been moved because there were concerns and comments about, for example, this was a great one. They wanted to have a maximum height and length of your utility truck. Here's the problem. It's against the law for an inspector to walk onto your property to measure your truck. So they're struggling with the compliance side of, we can make all these like e-bike rules and all these other rules without any kind of support to support it. So now they're
No enforcement.
enforcement. So now they're trying to, I hope, simplify it to allow you trucks, if you feel that way, I could go either way with it, with signs and whatever. So I
But
think,
you know, there's a way to enforce that without having enforcement officers.
Drones.
Have them register with the city, pay a fee for a yearly pass
Sticker.
to go in their window and solve the problem.
absolutely.
Yes.
Good
And that's
idea.
really
Because
simple.
when they go to get it, they have to prove what size their vehicle is.
Good idea.
And it's a revenue maker
Right,
for the city.
kind of like,
And the city can make hundreds of thousands of dollars a year.
you know, it's kind of like licensing your pet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
They only have like 10% of the people that have pets in Palm Coast bother to license
It's
their
like
pet.
having a parking, it's a parking permit.
Donna and I have stood up to the city council and told them this.
Oh, I know.
But they're so inept at understanding something so simple.
They do struggle with the keep it simple, stupid scenario.
Yeah.
And I've tried that all in all,
Yeah.
enforcement. So anyway, volunteer, participate. Kurt?
When is the
What's the
next-
whisper on property taxes?
So the whisper would be coming from Tallahassee.
Yeah, I would think so.
And as it stands right now, the last thing I heard was the state is looking at 5 to 6 options that they want to put on the ballot for people, the citizens to vote on.
Well,
To make it-
confuse them.
Well, yeah. In fact, there was this great scenario of, in the state of Florida, how many votes, what's the percent required for an amendment to pass?
60.
60.
We know that from amendments.
So if you have 5 choices of various property tax, for example,
Nobody's gonna get. a-
nobody pays, seniors pay, people with homestead pay, there's just all these options that blow your mind. None of them will get to 60%, so none of them will pass. But it looks really good that you have
That you can offer it.
the Republican Party's trying to reduce property taxes, which will never happen.
Very clever.
So let's go back to the shock you more and the fact that on the first, I believe on the first month, did you own your own home, you get a real estate tax bill?
Yes.
Did you get, okay, and so check, and there are 2 different lines that refer to education, and typically $800 a year or $900 a year. We who don't have children say, what, the schools don't matter to us. We support the schools to the tune of $800, $900, depending on the value of your house, $1,000 a year, and we have an interest in this stuff, so we should talk to people like Lashaki Moore tomorrow, and pay attention to what's going on in the school board.
But none of the options have any reduction of property taxes for education.
Yeah.
Margaret, I've lost track. When is the next city council meeting?
Next Tuesday,
Okay.
but I don't know whether it's a
It's in the
morning
evening.
or evening.
The
I
problem
can
with our
find out.
schools, those taxes are just gonna continue going up because with this school choice program that we have, they're adding more costs because they're pulling funds out of the public school in the millions, and then they're falling behind in maintenance and everything, and then they're asking for more money because they got millions taken out to start another school. And I just can't believe Floridians or any state would support now 2 failing systems. That's what it's gonna come down to.
Yeah.
It really
The voucher
is, you know.
systems are destroying the public schools.
Yes, and
Yeah,
they're destroying it.
Yeah.
But they're so inept that we paid taxes to send 47,000 students to private schools, but those students went to public schools. And so the question is, where did that money go that we just spent supporting 47,000 students up to $8,000 a year? And again, state government's as inept as local government. They just don't know what they're doing.
Well, that's when those private schools close.
And then that's another issue. Yeah, I mean,
Where'd that money go?
since they're very unregulated and rarely
Totally
have qualified teachers.
It's just unbelievable.
At any rate, so I want to again urge you to talk to Lashaki more. The schools are very important. By the way, I would argue that our real estate values also are tied to the quality of our schools. When we go to sell our houses, and I think most people, by the way, have experienced a 4 or 5% reduction in the value of your home if you use Zillow over the past year. But the higher quality of the schools, the easier it is for us to resell our homes, and the more desirable our property and our real estate values.
So 9 a.m. next Tuesday
9 a.m. next
is the
Tuesday.
next meeting. And to follow up
That's
with
City
what
Council.
you were talking about, the superintendent admitted publicly that they are aware of at least 100 children that are in the school system today that received vouchers, attended a school of some level, and then left that private school or homeschool, entered into the county system, and there's no mechanism for a requirement for reimbursement. And Representative Leaks was on that phone call. It was on a first,
state senator. Leaks.
it was on a first Friday, if you ever listen to that, from 9 to 10 with the radio station, admitted that there were holes in the voucher system that they needed to work on. And then a week ago, it was found that vouchers were being used to attend Muslim-supported schools, and they're trying to stop it.
But
Okay.
why would that surprise anyone?
That's always been,
Okay.
by the way, Scientology schools. Yeah.
But I'm just saying,
That's
they
why
said, oh my
public
God,
schools- public
we did this
schools are so much
voucher
better."
system and now our money's going to Muslim schools?
They're
What?
supposed to go to Christian schools.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly. Yeah, yeah.
So those are two questions that I would like to ask.
So Florida's Catholics spend a lot of money to support Seventh-day Adventist private schools, where they teach that the Pope is the Antichrist. And Florida's what's McLaughlin? Mormons in Florida spend a lot of money to send kids to Baptist schools that teach that Mormons aren't Christians.
Yeah.
And we spend and Baptists spend a lot of money to support. It's Clearwater Academy is in Clearwater, very large school, a series of schools that teach Scientology.
Wow.
So with
Sure.
your money, you're
Their base.
teaching that Scientology. Your money is being used to support schools I'll stop. I could go on forever. To support schools that teach that the world, that in biology and in geology classes teach that the world is 6,000 years old.
Okay.
And any other evidence was really altered by Noah's flood.
It's no wonder the country's being dumbed down.
Yeah, yeah.
But
Now I understand paleontology. I got it.
we would accept.
And it's only 5,700.
Yeah, right, exactly, yeah.
So the mindset behind that is.
That's where they get it.
We would accept vouchers being given to students that would allow them to be taught everything? Or do we just stop the voucher system altogether?
It'd be best.
And
Go back to public
families that want to search out and find school sources, education, private schools, home schools, in which they'd be allowed to teach themselves. The other ironic question was, there was a disconnect between Representative Leaks and Ms. Moore in stating that every private school has the same requirement of grades and passing that the public school does. And Brian McMillan from the Observer pushed back and said, homeschool evaluations are voluntary. And I verified that is true.
Yeah.
As a homeschool, you can teach your child, and you can opt for quarterly, monthly, annual testing, but it's not required.
So
There's
how
no
does-
requirement.
So how does the student get into a university if they're homeschooled and there's no?
They take, well, they're getting rid of the SATs
Yeah.
here in Florida, right? They're not requiring that anymore.
ACTs.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there-
the ACTs
yeah.
or whatever that level one.
There are a series of colleges, universities, so-called colleges, so-called universities. The first was Patrick Henry up in Northern Virginia that are designed to accept students out of homeschooling.
Hillsborough?
And by the way,
Yeah.
if you need
Hillsdale?
if you need your gallbladder removed, do you want to go to a surgeon who was homeschooled, or actually would you fly on an airplane that was the pilot was homeschooled and learned how to go?
This whole question, it starts, let's say, with the question of schools and public versus private is really what I'm looking at. And then again, I look at myself. I look at myself, and I believe I'm a capitalist. I really think that capitalism is a good thing. And so, but then I look back at the sci-fi movies when I was a kid, especially something like Blade Runner, not when I was a kid, but years ago, and this whole dark idea of the government becoming unimportant and corporations taking over everything. And then I go, if we step away from schools for a minute and we look at NASA. So I was always so proud of our space program and our abilities in that area. And then NASA starts to subcontract because it's cheaper. They couldn't afford to do something, so they hired someone else who then developed the expertise and so forth. And so it's my government itself, when you go wrestle between this idea of public versus private, it's the government agency itself stepping back and saying, oh, well, we can't do this, but we can hire Elon Musk to do this because he can do it cheaper than we can. How does that affect my thoughts on capitalism? It makes me think that yes, but on the other hand, shouldn't, roads, should the federal government get out of the business of taking care of roads and simply put out contracts to local contractors and take the best bid? Why not? Why not?
We get a lot of cheap construction.
Yeah.
Well, then the federal government can maintain the ability to supervise and test.
There you go.
But so we're saying if the private sector is more efficient, maybe that's not wrong. On the other hand, after spending 30 years in a public school classroom, I really feel strongly about public education. If we could come up with a system of private education where people who couldn't afford it could still get in, I would consider that.
We'll go 1 and 2, but let me
make it public.
They want their vouchers plus.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know.
But don't forget, a private corporation's obligation, the leadership of a private obligation, is not to make respect of schools. It is to increase shareholder value. So Curt, and then.
Well, I taught economics in high school too, as well as political science and stuff like that. So how many economic systems are there?
Yeah, communism, socialism.
Yeah.
Well, they have
they're
called command economies.
They're blend.
There are market economies, command economies, or traditional economies, and these are barter type that have stuff like that. And then what everything else is, and that is a mixed economy. There are no textbooks. Even North Korea has a big black market, and so it's not a total command economy. So understand that we're very much a mixed economy. And that goes back once again to who was the first democratic socialist.
Yeah.
Who understood that, a market economy is not going to give everything it needs, and it's not really going to protect its citizens.
FDR.
And that's why we have all these food stamps and WIC and everything else, because you got to take the sharp edges off.
Fire departments and police departments.
You have to take the sharp edges off.
Right, what were you going to say?
Privatized.
Right, you were.
Yeah, the problem I have with the whole idea that privatization is better, being a prior military, that all started with Ronald Reagan. Reagan worked private contractors in the military, and it's gotten worse in the military sense. I was just talking to a gentleman that was an intelligence officer, and he said it's killing our military. It's because they can't even retain personnel for long-term careers anymore, especially in the special forces. These guys are seeing private contractors getting 3-4 times more than them. Why would they stay in the military? So it's crippling our military. To NASA, that was debunked too. I forget the gentleman's name. He's a famous scientist. He's a black gentleman, and he spoke on Elon Musk at NASA, another principle you talked about. And he said that whole theory with Mars, it's not going to be done. It can't be done.
That's silly.
Yeah, so
no, that's ridiculous.
So I'm not going to go into it.
Right,
It
right,
can't be
right,
done.
right.
He obviously showed why it can't be done. It was like, it really opens your eyes. So it's just like you were saying earlier.
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Yeah, he nailed that right on the button. And he showed why privatization does work, but like Neil said, that Elon came in where NASA completed everything. Okay, so now private side looks at this, and the private side always looks at avenues just like the military. If they can get their hands in, just like privatization is talking about getting the police force. Privatization is talking about getting the firefighters side. Why? Because the budgets are in the billions now. Look at New York City; it's in the billions. Their budget's in the billions. If you can come in as a private side and skim 10% of that off, you're doing pretty good. You know.
Well, it would be pretty easy because you wouldn't be giving retirements to your firemen and your teachers and your sanitation workers. In a private environment, those guys would not be looking at that kind of a situation. It would be very easy to trim an awful lot of money off of it.
And the fact that capitalism is not really working well, okay, it's pretty sad that we have 40 million people on SNAP.
Yeah.
I mean, if we would pay fair wages, okay, and these corporations, and we know who they are, they're benefiting all the way around. They don't have to pay for health benefits. They don't have to pay for for proper wages, and we're all paying. The middle class is paying for it.
I'm not going to raise my hand because then I know I won't get in right away. There was just a.
You don't have to raise your hand.
There was just the CEO of Boeing was just in front of a committee in the House, and he was asked how much is he being paid, and he said it's quite a bit of money. And he said, well, I said how much, and he was skirting around the edges, and the guy who was asking him said, you got paid $38.9 million this year, and he said, yes, that's correct. He said that was 45% more than you got paid last year. He said that's correct. He said, but your employees got 1% more than they got paid last year. And he said, well, it's something that we're working on.
Yeah.
We could be sure.
I just want to highlight one other issue. So it was just highlighted this not too recently. I mean, the position on capitalism. Even the President's Administration of Transportation hit on it. He said those people that were sick on air traffic controller, they're looking at possibly firing them because they weren't patriots. Meanwhile, these people are trying to pay for daycare. They're trying to pay their rent, and they're not allowed to take sick time off. You know, when they have
to work
sick
their Uber job.
to work their Uber job.
Transportation back and forth every day.
Get some money coming in.
And that's the attitude of capitalism. Now, that's crony capitalism. Capitalism, honest capitalism does work, and I've seen good honest capitalism. Mr. Hershey was one of them. Mr. Hershey built a town around it where they had fair wages, good schools, and that was a good capitalism. But we have a lot of crony capitalism today.
By the way, it doesn't get enough attention at all, but most of the prison system of the state of Florida is a private corporations.
But, and I was going to touch on the Boeing for a moment.
Oh, that's right.
You're talking about, I have some experience
Near and dear to
with
the heart.
that, and they learned very early on that the belief that you can hire a third-party group that's going to provide you a product that is going to meet your requirements, quality requirements, because Boeing does not have the authority to diffuse or to water down its liability of its planes. So as we learned from the 237 crashes, even though a contractor may have put a bad part on a plane, ultimately the Boeing company is liable for those actions they found very quickly when they put in compliance, regulation, requirements
Standards.
of the supplier, very few of them
Wanted to play.
would play. Furthermore, the Boeing company and many large contractors go to those subcontractors and lock them down on their profit margin. And a lot of people don't realize that, and one of the things I did for the Boeing company was support third-party contractors that would come out and say, well, I'm gonna make this little widget. And they would do a really good job of making this little part. And the company would come in and go, but your profit margin's too high. You can't get more than 8%. And we're talking capitalism. So here you are, a 50-man, 100-man manufacturing shop down here in Cocoa Beach, and you're doing pretty well, and you're making these widgets, and you're making a 10, 12% profit margin, and Boeing comes in and says, that's too high. So you're gonna have to take that profit and buy a better machine that gets rid of 5 employees so that you can lower it. Because Boeing's view is the total cost of an aircraft, which by the way, they have no idea how much an airplane costs, if you can imagine that for a minute. When they deliver a 737 to China, they have no idea how much that costs the company. They never did. But from capitalism, they go to the manufacturer and go, you're making too much money. And the guy's gonna go, why do I wanna be in bed with a company's gonna come in and look at my books? But if we look at that in the school system, and we have educators here now, in which I've never met an educator that went into the public school system to make money. That was never the reason that you became an educator. It was other benefits. The 3 months off to raise your kids in school, the long-term pension, the requirement and the value of some of those pensions, which don't exist anymore in most industries. So greed and capitalism have crushed this dream that we have. How many of you would sign up for a 50-year mortgage?
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, so
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
if you're 20 years old, you'll be
Could you
paying-
imagine
when
being
you're 70, you'll still be
25
paying-
years old, you're signing up
you'll-
for a
If you're
mortgage?
lucky,
For-
these days, if
to
you're
when you're
lucky,
70
If you're
years old.
lucky.
when you're
Yeah,
25.
yeah.
So,
It's
And then they
that's
say, by the time
indicative
you
of
pay it
how
off, you've almost
how
paid
bad-
more than you paid for the
yeah,
house.
Yeah.
how out of touch they are. But anyway, go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, they, when I was in graduate school 50 years.
This is a great meeting. I'm loving this meeting.
Before Reagan was there, we were all talking about the 35-hour work week.
Yeah.
And everything which was coming from the price of oil, because we were still talking about that. And as we all know, the United States is just loaded with oil.
Yeah.
It's been loaded with oil.
Oil, yeah.
And so we were all looking at a world that's never happened and never would happen because it wasn't, it was just too good to believe.
Yeah.
Oh my God, but I got out of graduate school, I thought, hey, this is gonna be great,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
And everything's gonna be paid for.
That's what you all
Right?
Right. A chicken in every pot. And
Yeah,
that's
well,
like
I just went through with the GI Bill, and it took me all the way through graduate school. And I had money in the bank when I got out of school. Isn't that a perfect world?
I would, just very quickly, because we talked about education, how many of you lived in a community where you could go to public school, or there was a private school, or a Catholic school, or some other school that you could go to? So you had school choice
Yes.
back then.
That's right.
Yeah.
What they call school choice today isn't school choice, it's school choice, I choose and you pay.
Yes.
Right.
See, if in the past, if you chose an alternate school,
You
you
paid.
did, you paid.
Paid.
You did it the old-fashioned way. You paid for your education, but we provide. But now we, the taxpayers, are providing public school, and we're paying for the private school as well.
It's
And so the
unsustainable.
issue is not exactly totally
but
unsustainable.
in the Northwest, which I know how you taught up in that area, weren't there certain schools, public schools, that were better than others, and they had a lottery system or an application system where if your child exceeded or was doing better or whatever, that they could apply to get into a different public school?
If you're talking about an entire school, then you're talking about an urban area.
Yeah.
And they
Okay.
do have that in the
Yeah.
urban areas. And then in individual schools in smaller suburban or even rural areas, they do have programs for the gifted. And so that there might be a test for or an application for it, and you're evaluated to see whether you can get into a program for a gifted. But in the major urban areas, most of those do have specialized schools for elite students.
We
Right.
have that.
But
in
they're all
Flagler.
still public,
No, they're still public,
and they
yes.
don't cost
No.
the,
We have that in
No.
Flagler.
okay.
Yeah.
So
As
even
far as
within
I
the
know, when I
public
was
That's,
teaching-
that's today, but then.
Yeah.
School
How
choice.
I never got exposed to that
No,
myself.
there's been school choice for decades.
You know what, how old is Bronx Science?
I was just gonna say Bronx Science,
Is-
right,
okay,
yeah.
Is a good example. Go ahead, Nick.
This morning I was at the affordable housing workshop, and I'm just the public side of it. I tried to get on the advisory board, but didn't meet the cut, I guess. But anyway, just to let you know, the meeting for Palm Coast is going to be 12/9 for the workshop, and then 12/16 they will vote on it for the recommendations of the advisory board. I just want to let you know also that 30% usually is the threshold for somebody to afford a home.
30% of what?
30% of your income is to afford a house.
Yeah.
Okay, usually what you spend on
If you,
your home.
yeah,
is the
30% of your
threshold.
income is what you ought to spend on your home. You shouldn't
Yeah.
spend any more than
Yeah.
30%.
Oh, okay.
That's why a
Okay.
50-year mortgage
Chime in,
has a
economic.
much lower payment, but.
But anyway,
length of the
just to
time
let you
you're paying
know,
for it.
majority of our careers here, okay, can't
Gonna come
afford a home.
close. They're gonna
Okay,
come close and
a
have it.
firefighter is paying over 50% of his
Right.
income. Okay, sheriffs are up there too, okay, nurses are up there,
Teachers?
50, teachers are up
Teachers, the same
there,
thing.
okay? So we have a housing crisis. The problem we have in Flagler County though is because our economy is wrapped around real estate, retirement. I'm gonna let you know that affordable housing, I talked to some people, I get a lot of feedback where people are scared about affordable housing. They have this imagination it's gonna bring riffraff, and I told them this morning, we need to sell it, that it's gonna bring local cops in those communities, it's gonna bring firefighters in those communities, and that local cop might be off duty, and you might be in an accident right outside his community, and he'd be able to be an aid to you. So that's what we need to do. But Flagler needs to wake up, and I think Flagler also, we don't have the industrial base, so we don't have much capitalism here in a sense. But anyway, but we need to start getting, these projects need to come in because in order to have a better balance for our community. We can't just keep building houses without other infrastructure. And I would like, if any of you can make the 12/9 and talk on affordable housing. And what, I don't know if he's ever had it in your community, but I'm from Allentown. It started in 1932. And I was fortunate enough to meet firefighters and cops that lived in affordable housing, and it became a better part of the community. So it works. It's a plus.
So I learned something really interesting. The blue state of Florida, Washington State,
Yes.
just passed a statewide rent control guidelines for the entire state. Mandatory guidelines for renters and their percentage of raising rent through the entire state. Now that is a direction that would assist with affordable housing, affordable rent, because how the rent goes is how the mortgages go, and they're linked. And what blew me away was, and you probably have seen it, the rent in Palm Coast is out of whack compared to the mortgages because of the qualification and the availability, because of most of the retirees come here, they pay cash for the whole house that they're buying.
And their median income is
Which
based on retirees.
then that throws everything out.
It's 89.9. It's the median income
Yeah.
here because it's
So-
based on retirees.
Right.
And I said that you can't be using that number Because again, it tells the landlords, well, it's 89.9, I'm keeping my rent here, you know? And then these young kids that are coming out of grad schools and everything else, they just can't get off their foot because it's just, and when we're not gonna get any new talent here, they're gonna go elsewhere. They're gonna go where it's affordable. And
It is,
you know,
And where they can make
There's
money.
work.
and where they can make money.
And this is a right to work state.
Both of my kids, both of my kids
They have a right to work someplace else than Palm Coast.
It's
They're
not,
gone.
but it's not intended.
It's amazing we
to-
see any young people at
And
all.
just to let you know, Flagler County started this back in the 90s, late 90s, and we have zero affordable housing, okay? Volusia County and St. Augustine has it, and if you talk to your local waitresses, they usually live in those counties because that's the only way they can afford. So
Well, the recommendations by the board over the past 5 years, 0 of those recommendations have actually carried through the city council to move forward.
Yes,
But consider this for a moment, it was this connection between property taxes, which we were just talking about. The city of Palm Coast, 93% of the taxes come from property taxes, which support our infrastructure.
And too
That's
high-
why
too
they
high.
want to bring in industry and building to offset that. That would be 0 of an issue without property taxes.
right.
So if property taxes went away and now we're paying 15, 18% sales tax or whatever they would do to meet that requirement, they would no longer need to be driving for industry and businesses to come into the city
Right.
because that's not where the tax base would be coming from. They would be coming for building more homes and attracting retirees because we buy gas, we buy food, we spend money, we pay the not property tax, the sales tax to offset that. So the entire method of their tax base to support the things that the city thinks we need, trust me, they don't always work in our best interest, would now be flipped on its head.
We gotta break the model, because that ITT model,
Okay.
their model is to build 250,000 homes for Palm Coast alone. Look at what it is today, with congestion and everything else. Can you imagine? It's just they could do it in 10 years, 250,000 more homes here. We wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, we have a water problem, we have a waste problem. We need to slow down, and we need to, it makes me laugh because they want to do industry here. And the lady that I'm challenging from city council side, she makes a suggestion to put the blame on the school system because the school system's not educating kids that we need for our future. But then there was another gentleman that countered, and he was spot on. He said, you can't blame the school system because what industry are you going to bring in for the school system to prepare that student? You don't even know what you're bringing in, you know? So yeah, we could be training kids, but then there's no industry here for that. They're moving on, you know? So it's you got to get the industry here first.
Well, part of the problem with getting industry is to lure them, you have to have a place to put them.
Yeah.
City of Palm Coast doesn't have any property to put them on.
Yes,
They
yes.
sold it all to the
They sold it,
developers.
yes, they sold it all, yeah.
Just ask the Douglas brothers.
Oh, and there's as I said last week, there is a survey that I believe is still active. That's not part of the city. It was developed by a third-party group, and it asked those very questions. I took it, and it's asking us, what do you want for the visibility or the view, the brand of Palm Coast? Most of the retirees I talked to wanted to stay a small village without industry, without
But it
explosion.
can't stay a small village anymore.
Sure it can. Sure.
It's grown too big and spread out already.
Well,
How many people live in the villages?
Yeah, but the village
Is an example of
Village is
a
true.
Well,
design,
That's a whole different concept of what we have
but
here.
that was the concept of what the
But
ITT
that's been
started.
blown
no,
apart.
Not so
I
much.
think IT&T's publications, they wanted to make this a Hilton Head, another
Yeah.
Hilton Head in Florida. Is that
It's
what-
like you can't
But-
have industry without support behind it, infrastructure.
Yes, infrastructure.
We can never have a bus system the roads in village is not designed that way. So when you look at lack of property, lack of infrastructure, why do you think these companies are not
Yes.
coming here?
Well, when I was the
There's no
CAC,
workforce.
when I was the CAC for Palm Coast, meeting with the
No
TPO,
TLAs, no TLAs.
the TPO,
No,
I talked-
So what are those-
stop,
talked
I
to
gotta
the-
stop you.
What is the
using No
TPO?
TLAs.
oh,
Abbreviations.
Three-letter
the
acronyms.
Transportation Planning Office.
Okay,
Thank you.
Volusia Flagler, it used to be called River to Sea,
yes.
okay?
F you.
These are people
I
who are
talked
gonna fix.
to Voltran, they have a representative at every meeting.
Well, that-
Yeah.
And
well,
I
that
talked
Voltran passed it.
extensively with them, and they explained how their system works and how it could never be here.
Right.
And, because I thought, hey, it'd be great to get a system here. No, it won't
It won't
happen.
work.
It won't work.
Now, the other one, the C, what was the other? What is that?
Citizens Advisory Committee.
The Citizens.
I was the representative for Palm Coast with the River to Sea Transportation Planning Board. You know, I actually quit because, one, I didn't feel I was getting anything done.
Yeah.
And it interfered with Tuesday bowling, so.
Well, you know, we heard that a few years back, Coca-Cola wanted to bring a bottling plant to Palm Coast, but they couldn't because they couldn't get enough of a water supply.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, there's a suit right now.
They were talking about fracking, they were talking about making an ethanol plant here as well,
Yeah.
but the water,
They need
it takes
it.
too much water.
They need a 20-inch main for
yeah.
water.
Right.
By the way, I'd like to, and we're running out of time, but perhaps next week we'll talk about the racial and ethnic impediments to affordable housing. That is the idea that affordable housing will attract lower class people, the wrong race, the wrong ethnicity, and so on, and would change the makeup of our city as well. Yeah, good.
Well, there was one thing I wanted to say about 20 minutes ago when you brought up about
It's hard.
the commercial companies taking over, you know, and it reminds me, because I'm from St. Charles, Missouri. And in 1956, the Department of Transportation wanted to start an interstate system. It started right there in St. Charles, by the Missouri River. But they didn't know how to do it. So Fred Weber Construction Company became millionaires because they said, we'll do it. And they did it. They're the first company that started building the interstate system. And of course, it spread other companies in other states. But Fred Weber was the first one. He left his kids a fortune. But the government couldn't do it. Commercial did.
Yeah. Curt, and then
There's one
then
word
finish up.
that we're all talking about, and it's an anathema to capitalism, and that is planning. They don't want to plan. They never, because planning is part of a command economy or socialistic, communistic.
Right.
We all know, if you've studied communism, you know, through China, they had this plan and that plan, and you know, the backyard. I don't know whether you ever heard of Mao, everybody was making steel in their backyard when he first came in, you know? And they were taking pot metal and stuff, and they were smelting it in their backyard. But that's what you're working, but those are the plans. Somebody has to have a plan. It's not a bad idea.
U.S. corporations have a plan, but they're never more than 90 days.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. That's
Yeah,
it.
exactly.
For the next
Yeah,
quarter.
yeah.
Their
Right.
plan is to make money for their stockholders.
For the
By
next
way,
90
they have
for the
a
next
legal-
quarterly-
They have a
Who
legal
are they
obligation. The law obligates them to make money for their stockholders.
Yeah.
Right.
At any rate, those of you who are viewing, and those I hope you will view as well, look on YouTube for this and all conversations in American democracy. Leave a comment. Leave comments and begin a discussion there as well. So I want to thank you all for being here, and we'll do it again next week. Next week, of course, again, we'll be at the public library, and we have lots more to discuss. We could probably spend many sessions on just Amendment 14, the 14th Amendment of the Constitution, and what it means today, and look for an email with those two references about the assassination of Garfield and the list.
List,
the
Whiskey Rebels.
Whiskey Rebels.
What?
So thank you very much.
Forgot.
So we'll see you
The
next
tulips.
week, same time,
You
same station.
gotta watch the tulips.
Good. Yeah.
it was.
Tulips